Hello class, this is your teacher Mr. McDougall, and this is going to be your next tutorial in Photoshop. This is going to be our first project. So up until now we've been doing classwork where I've been giving you exercise files and letting you practice some basic techniques. When you get to a project, you're going to use all the techniques I've been showing you to create your own work of art. What we're going to do for this one is we are going to create an Instagram promo for a special event. So the way we're going to do this one is I want you to imagine that you're part of some kind of team or organization, or you own your own business. That's this first part right here. So you're creating a promotion for a specific event coming up, and you get to use your imagination. So pretend that you're part of some team, like a sports team or a band. Maybe you have a big game or a concert, or you're starting your own business. You have a big grand opening or some kind of fundraising event, some event that's coming up in the next couple weeks, and you need to design a promotional post for it on Instagram. And we're going to create a post and a story. Here's a couple of examples that I've created so you can see. We're going to create a square post just like we did using the artboards. We're going to be using the artboards, gradients, shapes, FX, everything we've learned the past few lessons, and we're going to put it all together. So we're going to create a square Instagram post like this one, and we're going to create a matching story to go with it on our phones. So this is for the Azusa homecoming football game post. This one is for a fundraiser walk for the End Alzheimer's Foundation. So I took both of these photos, so these are my original photos, so that's what you're going to do as well. I'm not going to provide any exercise files. You're either going to use your own photos or find some online for the event. So whatever you decide to do, if you don't have photos of your own, you can Google search it. If you want to be in a band, you can look up band photos. Try to just find some generic ones in case you don't look like any of these people. Maybe just find some that looks like musical instruments. Maybe something like that, or maybe you want to open your own business like a salon. So maybe you do a post like this. Maybe you have the grand opening of your new salon and you're going to use this as your promotional thing. So whatever you're going to use, find a nice eye-catching image for whatever team you're going to be a part of and download this one. This one seems like a good quality. Remember when we talked about image quality, find a nice JPEG or PNG that's at least 800 pixels on these ones. This one's 1,000 and about 700, so this one would still work. This one's pretty good. So find something like that and download it so you can open it in Photoshop. So if we go to Photoshop, once we get started, we're going to get started just like we did in the previous assignment with Artboard. So let's go, and we're going to create a new file right here. New file, and just like we did with Artboard, this one's going to be called IG Promo. We'll start with a square post, which is 1080 by 1080 pixels. That's our square for Instagram. And make sure this artboards box is checked. And then let's hit create. Now we have our artboard. I like to have this panel extended. Let's rename this one to 1080 by 1080. This is all stuff we just did in the previous lesson. So if you don't remember this stuff, this is a good refresher, or go back and watch that lesson to make sure you complete it. We're going to create a new artboard piece. The way we did it before was go up to Layer, New, and then Artboard. Or when you see these pluses right here, you can also click this plus button and it will add a duplicate, and then we'll just change the dimensions of this one. So I created this duplicate one, but this one I need to change. Remember, an Instagram story is 1080 by 1920. That's the 9 by 16 aspect ratio. So we're going to type 920 right there, and now we have our vertical one. So this is all exactly the same. If you want to do it like the way we did in the previous assignment, just go to Layer, New, Artboard, and then type in 1080 by 1920 to create your second one. Or you can do it the way I just did it. All right, let's rename this one 1080 by 1920. Again, I'm going a little fast because we just did this in the previous lesson. So this is all similar stuff. All right, let's upload our photo now. So whatever photo you went with, let's open it. Go find it. Again, you can do Control O or File Open, whatever you want to do to get your picture in. I'm going to go with this one for the End Alzheimer's Walk. Again, use a photo either that you took or you found online. This one is one of my originals. So let's bring this into our artboard. Make sure we're on the Move tool. And you can either select all, copy, paste, or what I like to do is just click and drag and then come and drop it right in there. Whenever you drop it in, it might do this. It might not know where to land. Right now it landed on top of everything. So I just need to drag it and bring it into the artboards that I'm going to work with. So I'm going to grab it and drag it right there so it stays in this artboard. I can see that it's right there. Let me zoom out. Depending on the quality of your image, you might need to do that. That's okay. Shrink it to fit. And then position it however you want. Again, you're going to create some promos around it with some text and some shapes, so make sure you position it in a good way that leaves it interesting. I'm going to position it like this so I can have some text and shapes off to the side right here. Before we do anything, let's turn this into a smart object so we can duplicate it and streamline our editing. Let's right click, convert to smart object. Now this one's a little smart object right here. I could tell by this little icon. And then let's duplicate it to work in here. So click on this layer. The shortcut is Control J. There we go. And let's move it up into the other artboard right here. Now I'm in this second one. Now let's make sure it fits this one right here. That's looking good. Remember, the picture you take has to fit both of these aspect ratios. You want to find a picture that looks good in a square version and in a vertical version because we're going to create both at the same time. So one of the first things it mentions in the instructions is to add these things. So use all the tools and techniques we've practiced so far with some effects, shapes, adjustment layers, all that stuff. It says add a gradient overlay to the image with multiple colors. So let's do that real quick because there's a feature I did not talk about in the last one. So remember, we can go with a smart object. If I double click on this tiny little icon right here, yes, I can edit this image, which will affect both of the images on here. Let's create a gradient overlay for this image. So gradient overlay is one of the effects we practice. Click FX, gradient overlay, and you can add your colors. Go to this one. If you don't want one, you can just hit the trash can to delete that particular color. But remember, with the gradient overlay, you click on these little dots right here, and then you could choose the particular color you want to go with. 2 or more. I'm just going to go with 2 for right now. I want to keep it simple. Go like that. I like purple and orange together. I think that's a good color. Click OK. All right, so you'll notice with the gradient that it does this, where it has the whole color over it. But now I can't see the image anymore. The last time we just did it with a shape, so that was fine. This didn't matter with the shape. But now that with our image, we still want to see the image. So we're going to go over here to where it says blend mode. See blend mode? Right now it's normal, which just means it just puts over a color over the entire image. But if we change the blending mode, we can change how those colors blend and interact with the image. So if you scroll through any of these, you can click on them and see what effect they have. See, if I click that darken one, it has a different effect. The colors are still there, but I could still see the image. So go through all of these blending modes until you find one that you like. Color burn looks cool. Lightning looks pretty cool. They all look cool. You're not going to know until you click on it and just see which one works. Maybe soft light, hard light. Whichever one works for you. Might depend on your colors, might depend on your image. There's no right or wrong answer to this. You just have to feel it out and figure out which one works for you. I like the soft light one. It's very subtle. I'm going to go with that one. Once you set it on it, click OK. So the gradient is the same as we did last time. The only thing new now is we're changing the blending mode so we could still see the picture. And you'll see nothing's been changed here yet until I save this one. So in order to make the effects happen, I need to go back to this one and hit Control S to save. Now I've Control S saved it, and if I go back to my promo, now both of these have been affected. They've both been changed by that gradient overlay. So now you're just going to keep adding stuff to the promo, just like we did in the artboards and the other ones. What else I want you to add is 2 or more different kinds of shapes. So at least 2, but you can add more shapes to it. And then 2 or more different kinds of text. Different kinds of text means different sizes and different fonts. You should have at least one big kind of title font and then a smaller one with event details. So if you go back to my example, we can go back to this example right here. I have two different kinds of text. I have this big title one right here, like with Azusa, and then I have a smaller text right here that fits in this box, and it mentions some of the details. This is the homecoming game. Here's the date. Come out and check us out. If any more important details you need to know, like the starting time, add that to your specific event. And then 3 or more different kinds of effects to the shape and the text. So you'll see from the examples, I have a couple of effects here. I have a stroke border around these. See, there's a stroke border around all the shapes. I have a drop shadow on this one coming out. This one has a bevel and an emboss, giving it that 3D kind of look. Same thing with this one. I have 3 different kinds of text. I got one here, one here, one here. I got 2 shapes. I got this cool rectangle with the curved corners. I have a circle. The circle has this bevel edge right here. This also has a stroke and a drop shadow. So this is what we're doing. We're making this promo to post online and get people interested and involved. They want to know right away. When you see a post like this, the immediate details you need to know is what is it, what's going on, and when and where can I find it. You want to make everything easy to read as well. You can pick whatever colors and font that you like, but the most important thing to know is that it must be easy to read. You don't want font that is too cursive and difficult to understand. You don't want a light colored font on a light colored background because that just makes it hard to read. Make sure your text stands out in a way that the audience can easily understand the information. So once you have completed it, you will export both of them. So once you've completed both your post and your story, you will go to File, Export, Export As. Make sure it's set to JPEG, and then we'll export both of them at the same time. So we'll click Export, export into our promo. So we have this one for the Azusa game. So if I go back to my promo, here are my 2 exported files right here. Here's my square post, all set and good to go, ready for Instagram. And then here is my story. So these 2 things are what you're attaching to this project. Make sure they're the same. The only thing that might be different is the positioning of some of these things. You could see I have the star here and the rectangle right here. But in the vertical version, the star didn't really fit, so I had to move it. So the elements need to be the same. The only thing that might change is some of the positioning and the scale, because this one is taller and this one is more of a square. So that might change, but everything else should match. That needs to be cohesive and make sense. Okay? So that is your project. Again, you'll work on this on your own. Use all the techniques we've learned so far. Go back and rewatch any of those demo videos in case you forgot how to do some of these things, and all the instructions are right here as well. Have fun, be creative, and let me know if you have any questions.